Hello. I'm afraid I was so shocked and upset by the news yesterday about the Headley business and Lady Hussey apologising and promising to undergo diversity training. More of that later. I was so shocked about it that I completely lost any sense of humour that I normally have. And some of it will probably come back in this video, but because of that, I'm not going to be able to monetize this video. And for that reason, first of all, I'm going to tell you that I'm granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I'm also on Twitter, Gab and Parler, where I am at granniopteryx. The reason for that is that especially YouTube keeps dropping subscriptions and doesn't tell subscribers of uploads often. So if you want to know when I've uploaded a new video, you should subscribe to me on Twitter, Gab or Parler. And I'm going to ask you to like this video, to share it and to subscribe, but I shall warn you, if you think you're subscribed on YouTube, check that out because that might not actually be the case. All right, that's that. And you can help me financially because YouTube aren't going to. Buy me a coffee. There are 2 more links apart from the Buy Me a Coffee in the description, and you can choose one of those. Okay, so I'm going to return to the Ngozi Fulani thing because of something that occurred to me this morning, actually. You see, first of all, I have to warn you, the only version of what happened that we know of is the version that's been related by Marlene Headley. So I don't know how accurate it is. A lot of people have said she must have had a recording device. Well, she might have. But saying that she did have, I can't do that because I don't know. She hasn't said so and nobody else. I mean, that hairstyle she had could easily have concealed a recording device, that's for sure. But we don't know for sure whether she did or whether she specifically made an effort to remember, or indeed if she made up a lot of the dialogue. So, you know, we've got this version, and you have to remember, you can't say, well, she had a recording device and that means she was there for trouble. I'm sure she was there for trouble, but I'm not sure that it was a recording device that confirms that. Now, one of the things that Miss Headley mentioned as an insult to her was that Lady Hussey touched her hair. She flicked her hair out of the way in order to see the name tag, which in that incarnation was Ngozi Fulani. Now, Lady Hussey has been around for 83 years, 60 of which she spent being lady-in-waiting to the Queen, and I don't know how many times she went abroad with the Queen, but she certainly would have spent a lot of time talking to her. So it is entirely possible that she knew that the name Ngozi was Igbo and Fulani was the name of a tribe in the northern, mostly in the northern part of Nigeria. The Igbos are Christians and the Fulani are Muslims. And that in itself is a weird name, and I'm going to get back to that towards the end of the video with a comparison to another culture. So keep on listening. But I'll tell you something about the Fulani. Here, the Fulani, the Fula people with Arabic and North African roots, adopted Islam early. They, according to David Levison, adopting Islam made the Fulani feel a cultural and religious superiority to surrounding peoples, and that adoption became a major ethnic boundary marker. It means that no Fulani would call a daughter of their tribe by an Igbo name. Igbo, remember, are Christians. Now, I have a picture here, and I've got to find it, of a Fulani woman. You'll notice she's a completely different physical type to the type we see in Marlene Headley. Her lips, her nose, even the tone of her skin shows a good deal of North African influence there. Arab, probably. Berber, maybe. Anyway, you see what the difference is. Now, I'm not suggesting that this woman is what all Fulani look like. But this is supposed to be a typical Fulani type. And they made slaves of the other Africans in their areas, especially the Igbo. Being Christians, they were prime candidates for slavery in slave-taking tribes, and the Fulani had a very well-established imperial Muslim culture in parts of Africa. They wouldn't have dreamt of calling any child of theirs Ngozi. And any child of theirs would have looked more like this. Now, I'm not saying that Headley is to be blamed for not looking like a Fulani woman, but Lady Hussey might have realised that. She might have seen there was something wrong with the type and the combination of names. But whatever Lady Hussey might have known about the type or the name, what she did know was that the hairstyle that this person called Ngozi Fulani was wearing was mostly artificial. She was wearing dreadlocks, and the dreadlocks were very rudely dangling down over her name. If Lady Hussey did indeed flick a lock out of the way so she could see the name, she wasn't touching Headley's hair. She was touching an artificial extension. And this would have been no more rude than if somebody were wearing a showy hat with a feather dangling down and she'd moved a feather out of the way so she could see the name. I haven't noticed anybody else picking that one up. Now, let's just talk about what diversity training will do. It is now mostly accepted by many experts in the field of race relations that diversity training doesn't help. In fact, it makes things worse. And what Lady Hussey's forced apology has done is she has not provided an example to the rest of the British people. What she's done is she's made all the British people more worried about relations with black people of various sorts by whom they might be surrounded, their neighbours, their friends. Well, they don't know anymore, they're not sure. It's made everybody have a second thought about how they relate to people of different races. Diversity training tends to make things worse. It's been called a con trick by many. And the only thing it's going to teach Lady Hussey and anybody else to do is to freeze and to build a wall between people, to make relationships less natural. Now, let's just get on to Lady Hussey's repeated questioning about where Ms. Headley really came from. Because if she knew those two names didn't match, then she really had a right to ask this woman what her lineage was, because it's very weird. And it's also very insulting to Africans. And now I'm going to explain why, and this is why I can't monetize. First of all, now I'm going to talk about Fulani because that's the person who was in the party, in the reception. First of all, this Fulani person was wearing what looked like charity shop fake African clothes. A complete weird mixture of clothing. So this would certainly make anyone knowledgeable about Africa wonder if she's got some sort of African name, where she comes from. And it's a serious question. But the second thing is, she is bearing the name of two mutually antagonistic tribes, one tribe of which considers itself much superior to the others and has made many slaves of the other tribe. So imagine if somebody is at that reception dressed in a weird sort of mishmash, a man, let's say, dressed in a weird mishmash of clothes that vaguely make it look like he's an ultra-Orthodox Jew. He's wearing a very big hat, a big black hat, but it's like a Spanish hat, not like the hat that real Orthodox Jews wear. And he has two false extensions dangling down on the side of his face, which resemble the side locks that Orthodox Jews, but they're false. And then he's wearing a sort of black dressing gown, which sort of resembles the black coats that ultra-Orthodox Jews wear. Now imagine that side lock is dangling down in front of the name tag, and you're quite curious about what this person is, and you move the lock to the side and discover the name there, Moses Hitler. What would you think of that person? You'd think he was making fun of Jews, that he was making fun of Germans. You'd think that this person was a complete fraud, wouldn't you? And you would be very curious about his background. Is that not correct? Well, that's what Marlene Headley was doing. But because so many of us are very uneducated about Africa, we didn't realise quite how bad her framing was. As a matter of fact, in a certain capacity, I have been associated with a lot of Nigerians, so I know a fair amount about Africa, at least West Africa, I have to say, West Africa. So maybe that's why I'm getting this and many people didn't. Right, well, I hope I have informed you a little bit. And I have to tell you, I'm very, very nervous about uploading this video, but I'm going to do it anyway. Right, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.